Hi, I'm Stephen Budden. I want to help you get to a state where you're happy most of the time. I don't know if there's a such thing as being happy all of the time. I don't know if you'd even want that, because life is a tapestry of ups and downs and emotion, which is what makes it interesting. Variety is the spice of life, even in the emotional and the sensation world. However, most people are way up and down, and their baseline is somewhat unhappy. Like they live in a mundane sort of career state where there's very little excitement. You know this because if what excites you is to check the news or watch a film, this is bouncing around a bit, then you're in trouble, because those aren't real. So one of the things we do is shift to reality. More magic moments. Magic being an acronym that stands for 5 words that are sought after in the world of being. And the words are in flux. That's why when I saw the acronym, I saw a few options for different letters. So I'll wait till that's solidified. The point is, more magic, more real moments in your life. Less artificial moments. More moments of pure being. As Tony Robbins once said, the more you move, the more you feel. Energy in motion is emotion. And isn't there some truth to that? I was just bringing up this talk today because, financially there was a setback in one of my businesses, and I just noticed being kind of frozen up in my assets. Someone wanted a large refund. So I noticed I was walking around the farmer's market, usually a place that I can delight in, commune with humanity, and this time I was just heavy. And think about how much our external circumstances influence our internal state. Now, once I realized that, I could lift myself up again and be happy. Well, how did I do that? I started to move away from those thoughts into the sensations of the moment. So I started touching produce and talking to people and smiling more and doing some of the things I knew that would reverse the stooped posture, because there's a posture that accompanies your suffering and there's a posture that accompanies your rapture, and when you need to force one, you force that rapture posture, which I do with clients in my holistic postural analysis. And when you do that, it's almost impossible to slip back into the egoic wounds. And I know without a doubt that this particular business does a similar amount every month, no matter what happens over the past 3 years. So there are ups and downs, and when there are downs, the only reason I suffer is because I haven't prepared for them. So that's a good learning too. I prepare for them more and more. Maybe I haven't prepared for the refund facet, so that I'm stuck in that because the payment account is negative. So so then I have to get a bunch of large orders to cover that and then get back to zero. That's similar to being in debt or having a negative bank account or whatever. So how do you prepare for that? The point is, if you're prepared for life, then you can weather the ups and downs. That's why they say in a recession, reserve your cash. Your cash flow is even less important. Right? I mean, cash flow can always fluctuate, as I'm seeing now, and many others are seeing now. Again, it's the end of the world. The mind says this business is lame. The mind says this is over. This is all over. Notice the cognitive distortion of making everything a catastrophe. So once I realized that, I could walk through the farmer's market in a beautiful state, knowing this too shall pass. Soon it will be back to what it was. Now, is back to what it was good enough, that new normal thing? I don't know, after the recent pandemic, people were always talking about this new normal. And of course, it came to take on different meanings. And the empowering meaning was we're not going back to that. Whatever was going calamitously wrong with the world, we're not going back to that. We can cherry pick what was going right with the world, reacclimate some things. Some of us have done that, career-wise. Many people are doing completely different things than they were doing before. Likewise, so am I. So I want to help you get to this state, because I was thinking as I was suffering, wow, this is how I always used to feel, and now it's so rare. And likewise, I was also thinking, this is how most people feel most of the time, because I was looking around, kind of sensing this vibration and resonating with that. And that's my bag of produce in the back there. And then one onion was $4 US, so it's just like, okay, interesting. So whatever is in our vibration, this thing about like struggling in the finances, and then you go around the world, it's a recapitulation of that thought. And as soon as you're like, oh, I have plenty, then new orders pour in, abundance shows up. It's like, your account is frozen. Here's a $4 onion, right? Those are part of the same frequency of being that I would say that you want to get out of, although wanting to get out of it keeps you in it. Isn't that interesting? This is the biggest paradox in healing a pattern. And another thing to point out is that all of these patterns that you and I carry, they are reactions to unresolved childhood events. Childhood events that were deemed traumatic by a part of our consciousness. Now, I know a lot of people hear the word trauma, they're like, that wasn't me, my childhood was fine. And some people attach the trauma, my childhood was the worst ever. That's not really accurate, generally, because there are worse ones, right? And then some people are, my childhood was fine, and it was like not fine. So generally the truth is somewhere in between one of these polarities, and you can't know it until you go back from your objective older self and reassess the situation, because you need to bring to bear upon what happened in the past, or what seems to have happened, your new experience now. You've grown as a soul and a human, and your faculties are increased, you know more, you have more discernment, you've run by more situations. Most people don't take the time to do this, to go back and heal. So that's what I'm inviting you to do, and that's how we're going to reach this new baseline of greater and greater joy and bliss, and what I call rapture, which is this heightened state of happiness. And I think most systems and people in their automatic cognition, they're always pushing off their accomplishment into the future. Even if you look at like self-help gurus, they're like, make $1 million. And the trick is that you sell the hope. So they're like, make $1 million in a year. Once you do, your life is so great. Look at these houses I have, right? And it's kind of a ruse. Then you go, make to 50 million. It used to be like X days or months to 6 figures. Then when that promise kind of wore off, 7 figures. Now there's a bunch of get to 8 figures books. And I'm not saying people aren't getting to 8 figures. I'm just saying, if you don't heal your psychology, the chasing of the carrots and the moving from promise to promise don't really remedy anything, do they? I mean, I'm making 10 times more than I've ever made, and still get in this path of suffering because this is some unresolved thing from my childhood loop. Notice that it's resolving and it's a process of unfolding now, instead of it being like permanently transfigured and transmuted. I always tell clients, when you're utterly complete with this lifetime, then this lifetime will find a way to be over. So you're either learning and growing, or using what you've done to teach others how to learn and grow, and then that leads to more learning and growing. And sometimes you're more evolved than some people in many areas, and then you're really petty in another area, and we can't see that via all of these lenses. So where are you big-hearted and big-souled, and where are you petty? That's what I'm pondering. Where are you resilient to the exterior changes, and where are you like fickle and blown like the wind? There are places like that. You know how you can be triggered. I'm going to invite you to let go of that word triggered. Like when someone does something they disapprove of in themselves, they'll justify by saying, they triggered me. They shouldn't do that. I'm a trigger waiting to be pulled. I'm a bomb waiting to be detonated. Don't mess with me. Right? When you play with me, you're playing with fire. Don't play with it. Remember that song? And so that's another one of the components of suffering. You're everything's exterior focused. I'm suffering because they did this. And these thread back. So like I don't make enough money because we had to move here because so and so made me move here. Before that, in my high school, like some program was canceled, so I never learned this vital skill. Before that, my stepdad was mean. Whatever. You are where you are because that's where you are meant to be. Where you are going, though, is unwritten. Or let's say if it is written, there are 6, 12, 24 writings that you choose the one that resonates the most. In order to choose the one that resonates the most, the path is to resonate differently. Resonate better, I would say. I had a client, and he's like, he wrote a review. He's very intellectual and somewhat esoteric. He's like, he touched me and it aligned his vibration, or it rose my vibration to meet a place where his was, which was better than mine. And I just laughed because I'm like, better? So in his perception, it was better because I was more laid back, less trauma laden. Although I've had my share of traumas, some of them have been resolved. Maybe I can remain composed in triggered moments more so than I used to. He triggered me. That's an insult. Like, he made me feel this. That's an insult. The ironic thing is, if you look at nonviolent communication, it's an insult to the other person in the sense that they feel attacked. You made me feel this way. Nobody responds well to that. So I'm going to show you how to be a diplomat. Be like a diplomat in triggered moments. So you're like still thinking, is this from the heart center? Is this from the head center? And you can see all the pieces moving. Where am I triggered? Where might they be triggered? What's going on with my posture? What's going on with their posture? In a sense where you pick up short cues and it becomes automatic. We're unconscious where we should be conscious and vice versa. So that's what we're doing, bringing the consciousness, the unconscious parts, and then letting the other ones go a little bit so you don't have as much to think on that's not important. I'd say we lose the war because they have us focus on battles that aren't the real battles, that have no shift in the equation. Like, over here's the main issue. Look at this news. Clickbait's like the most extreme example, or like two political parties when there's this huge thing we all want to look at. Oh, look at this crazy scenario over here. And then we're like, oh, which one of those are the choices? Neither one. And similarly, if I ask you, what are your options here when you're suffering? You're like, well, I could quit my job and become homeless, or I could keep working for 100 years till I die and lay on my deathbed and regret my life. Those are the only two options in the mind, right? The mind's an oversimplified duality factor. No, you could work part-time, learn some trade, which is flexible location, move to Tahiti or wherever, and then you're free in that way. You could likewise stay where you are, cut your expenses in half, blah, 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 blah. There's 1,000 shades of gray. The catastrophic cognitive distortion, the duality, the polarity thinking will keep you locked in suffering. And those are some of the things. I could say this 1,000 times and people will be like, oh, interesting. But they won't look at their own life and the way they do that. So I need to, sometimes in sessions, I need to hold someone and say something literally into their eyes. And they'll just turn away, well, I'm not looking, I'm not doing that. Even when their eyes are closed and we're doing some somatic or body-based piece, like something there's uncomfortable, you know what happens with the head? It goes like this. I'm like, why are you looking away from this? Metaphorically and literally. So we go, then they're like, oh, I don't like that. Whatever emotion is distilled itself into that part of my physical reality, I don't like that right now. And I know you don't like it. That's why you're still carrying it. And you need to learn to resolve it and forget like and dislike. We don't need to worry about like and dislike. Like and dislike is a lower vibration of thinking and feeling. And that's where they try to keep everyone stuck. You put a sticker on your car of a product you like, and that's your identity. I don't care what you like or dislike. I care if you're a human soul and you're full flourishing. I produced the Bloom model so that you could focus on the right things. So I hope this somewhat gives you some discernment in where you are and where you're going. I put together the Heal Your Childhood Challenge so that I can walk you through 5 levels, 5 steps of this. And I'll put a link in the video here, or put challenge in the comments if there's some issue with the link, and I'll send you the details. This is currently a free challenge, which is unusual because usually my challenges cost more. And then there's a VIP option, which is paid if you want more interaction, like I just said. If you need me to grab you by the shoulders and say, look at this thing. Because as soon as someone talks, I can, and probably you can, tell within a line or two that they're mistruthing. they're going around the issue. They're justifying something they don't want themselves to do, and that's a cause of suffering, because you need to just do things you want to do and not do things you don't want to do. Don't do what you dislike. That's the simple truth of life. Don't do things you dislike and then justify and pretend you're not. Likewise, don't do things you dislike and compound them with all this shame so that it makes it worse. Then you go like you're feeling free and luminous, and you run back to the thing in your hole. I'm going to do this thing I dislike again because I feel so bad about myself. This is like a balm for my wounds. Don't do either one. I have trouble distilling this into simple digital sound bites, which is why, I don't have 10 million followers, because it's not simple. Like, there's a love or fear dichotomy for teaching, like a heuristic tool. It's not really how things go, but in the Bruce Lipton work, your physical biology is either moving toward or away from something, Likewise, emotionally, you're either moving toward or away from something. Most people are moving away from pain. So we're even taught, if I'm marketing to you, like, what are your pain points and how do you get out of there? Stop suffering in your relationships, for instance. I know you're suffering in your relationships. You find people that are a match and no one seems to live up to your expectations, or you let them down and you idealize them. That's painful. You can never really be present with someone because you're scattered across the landscape with distraction. So, like, where's your life? Moving from screen to screen? That's very sad to me. We're taught to normalize it. However, we're all like screening toward the grave. See, that's how I would pull you in with the pain point. And that's real. So I'm not saying it's not real. I'm just saying the shift is like, I'm going to move toward what I want. Whenever I want to pick up a screen and do some digital nonsense or do some addictive behavior, I'm going to go do what I want. Whenever I think in 10 months I'll have a certain amount of money where I can start doing what I want, I'm going to start inviting what I want into that moment. So that's the whole secret. I'm going to walk you through exactly how to do that, and even hold you accountable for doing that in this 5-day challenge. So if you want to join us on the next 5-day challenge, free Heal Your Childhood Challenge, again, comment challenge, follow me here so you can keep updated, follow the link if I have it in there yet. Thank you so much. This is Stephen Budden. I love you. I'll see you on the other side. Thank you.